Hello, I am Anna Landstrom, and I'm recording this for EAF 228 for my presentation of the reading. So I was assigned um, part of this book, part two, Teachers' Voices, Rethinking Teacher Education for Diversity. And I thought this was a very interesting topic that I haven't really explored at all. Being a white female, I have no idea what it's like. So it was very interesting to see how people in this research study have felt alienated throughout this, and just it's like blown away. It like blew me away, literally, the things that people have said to these teachers who are like to them during their education on becoming a teacher. It is just insane. Um, it was wild. So let's start off. I'm just kind of going to go through different things that I highlighted throughout this reading and kind of talk about it and get a little bit deeper in that. I'm going to go kind of off my outline. Um, so it kind of talks about in the first little bit on reforming teacher education, as it kind of says in the title there. Um, and just kind of to involve ethnic, cultural, and repressed groups in this reformation. As I continue to read throughout it, it definitely needs some love. I think this study was, yeah, it's a has a little bit older data, which is why probably some of the things that people said to them were so ridiculous. It says there was data between 1981 and 1985, but that's still like the teachers who are teaching right now, like they're still teaching. So it's very much um, valid in that way. Um, so I'm going to go down to my first um, highlighted thing here. And I'm going to start off like it talks about, they interview different people in this and they talk about different African American and Native teachers or pre-service teachers, and they talked about their experience in the university and out in like the teaching profession. So one thing that I have highlighted here that I thought was very interesting is this Native Alaskan teacher about what she learned in her education courses, like at a university. It says, I only learned how to teach white kids. I did not learn one thing about teaching Native kids. It is different, but I don't think they even thought about that, which I thought this was very interesting, and I really do enjoy this class because it kind of gives you that, like what she was talking about. Not that we know how to teach all of the cultural people. I don't know, that sounds horrible. Like all of the cultures and races and everything like that. But it helps us to kind of understand that there is the differences out there and we can't ignore them. Um, it's just crazy. Like all throughout these, though, it talks about, in their education courses, their professors talk about them being, let's see, here it has Native kids are low achievers and they have high dropout rates and they do not function well academically and they're just like writing them off, um, which is insane. Like they're here. Why not help them to become better? And we definitely need some something changed. So we're gonna go down to my next highlighted area. So most of the Black and Native teachers interviewed believe accounts of their own experience are not valid in teacher education programs or in their teaching lives. So I think I just kind of touched on that a little bit in her um, testimonial there, that they are not heard, and it is just super sad. One thing that while I was reading this, that some of these teachers left um, the profession, and I think that they should have stayed. I mean, I understand why, you know, being completely, disregarded, but I think fighting for that and really being an advocate could have definitely helped their situation or helped others people's situations as well. That's something that I just kind of take away because I'm kind of like that, I guess. I would want to fight for what I believe in and try to get, service to those kids and, teach them about um what's going on. Um let's see, this is just more about they encountered negative or stereotypical things. There was one thing down here, I don't know if I highlighted it or not. Yeah, right here, right under this highlighted section. That let's see, a black teacher complained of a white teacher who loudly chastised two Indian children in the hallway, referring to them as wild Indians. Like, this is stuff that they are dealing with, like, maybe not on the daily, but that's insane to me that someone would say that. I mean, what kind of person are you? And just more like they were just extremely um discredited. And this is another thing that people said. One black teacher was told, "You're not really capable of doing this work. You're only here because someone paid your way." Like, this is things like this is I went to a high school in the middle of Illinois, like central northern Illinois, and it is all white teachers, which is crazy. I was just asking my sister, I was like, do we even have like a colored teacher? Like, we have a lesbian teacher, but we don't have a black teacher, which I think is crazy. But whatever. But it would have been interesting to see the difference. Like, it goes on to talk about, let's see, we talked about the teacher education and why they left. And then we talk about, um, in this research, it talks about why some non-white teachers are certified but are not teaching. And for all the reasons that I've talked about before, it's just really difficult for them to kind of stand that and, be advocates and be serving those um, students. Let's see if I can find my next piece in here. Okay, so this next part talks about good teachers. So talked about, they interviewed, they asked the question of, let's see, I can't remember what exactly the question was, but like, what makes you different and like, how are you servicing your students different or, um, not necessarily like in compared to white teachers, but it's kind of how it goes. But they just talked about, um, how probably back in the day, white teachers were more following the curriculum and following the book and keeping it everything like that. And they talked about, and I just want to read this list to you because I think this definitely rings true, and we should all want to be these good teachers. So it says, good teachers care whether their students learn. They challenge all the students, even those who are less capable, and they help them to meet the challenge. Good teachers are not time bound to a curriculum, do not move on to a new subject unless all their students grasp this concept. Good teachers are not bound to books, instructional materials, but are connected to learning by real life, which I absolutely love. Uh, Um, Teaching agriculture, it's a part of your real life almost every single day. You eat every day, so I can really get it to connect in the real life situation. Okay, let's see, we lost my spot. All right, good teachers push students to think and make their own decisions, and good teachers communicate with others to observe to get to know their students and students' cultural backgrounds. I think this is super important. Um, I it's a part of my teaching philosophy personally to get to know my students and know where they're coming from, no matter what their background is, who they are, what they identify as. I mean, I want to get to know them and accept them and learn how they learn, because I was a struggling student and I didn't learn by, let's read this book and talk about it, and, more of the curriculum based, not relating it to me. How I would say the old style of teaching is. I think we're moving forward into this. Let's get our students to think. And I think that's exactly what they're talking about, not just yes, in the Black and Native, but I think it's important to, have it over all people and all students and all teachers need to be doing this. But have some problems like dealing with Black and Native Americans for some reason, which is crazy to me. This is what I thought was super interesting. This is from a Native woman who decided not to teach after getting her certificate. Um, and she taught in her student teaching. Oh, she had a sorry, I have to. She had a Native teacher who was different than all the rest, and she says, I was surprised she told us we had to think. No other teacher has ever said that to us before. And I thought that was crazy. I was like, are you serious? Like, that's one thing that I think I've been fortunate in my teacher education, that I've been pushed to ask those questions, to make students think, to have teachers ask me those questions and make myself think about how do students learn best, and really getting them to ask, questions for themselves and figure out things for themselves and really make them think. I think that is super important. All right, one thing, let's see, the next thing I want to hit on here was the different reasons that Black and Native uh, teachers become teachers versus white teachers becoming teachers. So, like me, which I have definitely agree with their logic that they have written in this segment, they talked about how white teachers, when they talk to them, they have more of they become a teacher because of how they learned, or how they were taught, is what they say. They have like a teacher that they really loved and like how they taught, and or they just have some sort of role model in the education system that they really liked and wanted to become a teacher. But this is very contrastingly different than the Black and Native American. They became teachers and are influenced in their teaching because of how they learned, not how they were taught. So they are more based on their experiences in that way, and um, just kind of their experience and how they think or how they learned, and like projecting that onto their students and like helping them out and wishing they had what they taught in there, um, which I thought was very interesting. And I'm kind of put in that stereotype, or not stereotype, but something of that sort, um, that I thought was very interesting, that that contrast was there. Um, and at the end, it talks about just, what we can do to reform. It talks about the different, curriculum bound educators that are, going by the wayside now. And, we need to bring in more reflection and critical thinking into teaching, and thinking of our students more and ourselves, and how we can make it easier for us less, and really getting to know our students and getting it out there, and really, taking into consideration, and inclusivity is important for all students. And I think that's something that we can take home about in this section of reading. Thanks.